Okay, so here we just create actually a very simple project, which will be just HTTP status codes, because I just want that actually. I want to create a project that just give all constants of every HTTP code. That's it. I want to make it really minimalist, and I also want to have them as a constant, because with a readable constant name, always when you have a 404, a 200, and 202, it's nice, but we never really, it's not very explicit. It's just a number. And in programming, it's really good to have a name that says actually what's that number. It's like magic numbers. I will show to you HTTP code. Why bad? Oh, sorry, not. Magic number. Number is in programming. And because when you store a number into a constant, then you use a constant for using the number, and it means what it does. And this is a much better practice. So why it's a magic number and why it is bad. So let's have a look if someone mentioned it. It goes a bit about all of the way the magic numbers refers is made. It's a code. The term magic number also refers to the bad programming practice of using numbers directly in source code without explanation. In most cases, this makes programs harder to read, understand, and maintain. Although most guides make an exception for the numbers 0 and 1, yes, it is also a good practice indeed to define all other numbers in code as named constants. And I couldn't agree more about this code. So now let's just create that project. Beautiful. And now let's just create a source folder and a test folder as well. Beautiful. And let's initiate our composer file. So composer init. So the name I will use actually PS7, because usually as a vendor name I will show it to you. Oops, I have so many different windows everywhere, as you can see. But what's the name? Packagist. Perfect. Oops. Maybe my internet just died. No, it should be fine. Okay. I think I just have an issue. I will have a look here if it does work, but apparently it won't. Oh, here it works. You see, it's because here I use my vendor name is actually PS7, so I will reuse exactly the same. I will use PS7. This is the reason why I will change actually to PS7 slash. Yeah, I will reuse this. I think the name it's important, and also for the rating for someone who is looking for your package to have a very explicit name, and the name should reflect exactly of what it does. So yes, description just HTTP status just oops. Beautiful. My name, yes, that's fine. Stable. It's a library actually, and define any dependencies. Not for now. Let's keep it. Yes, I will install PHP unit. Please enter yes. Would you like to define a dev dependency? Oh, sorry, yes, and then I will search for PHP unit. So which one? PHP unit, that one, perfect. Enter. I want the latest one, so we leave it blank. 9.5 is perfect. SRC, and I will say yes. Would you like to install? Now, yes, so now they will install PHP unit normally. For packages here. Oh, sometimes you have some issues, so you just need to install the packages you don't need. Let's have a look in composer.json if we have. So, oh no, it's just PHP unit, and in the normal require we have nothing. I actually move it up here. So yeah, it's perfect actually. And here you can even say I think it's PHP and then the name of the version is something like that. I will have a look to be sure actually. So yes, it's actually like this, PHP, and in my case 7.1 because I will use actually the access visibility for constants, and in PHP when you use access visibility, so like public, private, or protected constant, you need at least PHP 7.1. So that's perfect now. So our composer .json file will look more or less at this. Okay, so now I continued a bit the composer.json file. So that's actually what you see, it's our final version. So we have just, a description of what your package does, a few keywords. This is always useful when you want your package to be searchable easily on Packagist. So when you are on Packagist, if I search for HTTP status code, I look here and you see they use also keywords. Obviously the name is really important, so that's why you should use a really good name, but the keywords might help as well. And you see you have tags, and that's actually the most important. So if you do HTTP, I think HTTP is from the keyword of the package. Let's see here if they used HTTP as a keyword in the package.json, composer.json, HTTP. Yeah, HTTP is here. You see it's present. So yeah, this is how it works. And I believe if I do HTTP status code, you see there are not a lot, but I will use that one. And it's actually a good way also to see what keywords you should use to have a better rating to be searchable, because obviously the more people using your package, the more likely it is to have people contributing to your project as well, and better it is for you. So let's see here in our composer.json file, and here you see HTTP status code, which is the one here. The one the one mentioned here. So yeah, that's perfect. So it works. So now let's go back to our composer.json file. The homepage is a homepage if you want to set a homepage for your project. Type, in my case, is a library type. License, in my case, I used MIT. Actually, by the way, if you omit the license attribute, packages will mention, oh, be careful, this package doesn't have a license. Even if you have a license file in your project, also even if you uploaded a license file, even if you committed that one, but if you didn't mention a license type in the composer.json file, packages will give a small warning here. So it's always nice to mention a license. Require like what we just did. PHP unit is the best to me for testing, for doing unit tests. So I always use PHP unit, but if you prefer another library, it's fine too. Autoload, the autoload, because actually packages will use, and it has to know where your class is located. But for the test, you don't need it. Actually, you could have a autoload dev, so like this, and then dev. Dev. This could be good actually, and here you can mention, instead of this namespace, to be the namespace of the testing namespace. So in my case, I already added actually the class. So yeah, that's fine. So that's the class I added. But so you can actually, as I said, doing autoload dev like this with dev namespace. But usually what I do instead of, you don't have this, but instead you have phpunit.xml.dist or just phpunit.xml. I show you the dist file version. phpunit will pick up second. So first, phpunit will try to see if there is a phpunit.xml, and if there is no phpunit.xml, it will look for php unit.xml.dist. Actually, I wrote a note about it. phpunit.dist. Let's have a look in notes, and just so you can know a bit. Okay, php unit. So that's actually the description. So php unit vs php unit.xml.dist. Just if you are wondering what it is. So which does php what does php unit? So actually php unit first tries to use the php unit.xml, and if that file does not exist, then it tries to use php unit.xml.dist instead. php unit only uses one of these files, never both. And so the best practice actually is to include php unit.xml.dist in the Git repository, because it's the distribution file, and you add actually php unit.xml in your gitignore file, because that one you don't want to commit that one because it's a custom one. And when someone clone your repo, well, if that person wants a different configuration of php unit, that person will create a php unit.xml, and the php unit.xml.dist won't be used if the php unit.xml is used. So this is just so you know what's the difference. And here, because here I have the vendor autoload, and that vendor autoload will load actually my status code class. That's why I don't have to mention the autoload here in the composer.json file for the test file. That's just the reason, so you can know. So if you have it here included in the Bootstrap, you don't have to include the testing namespace in the autoload dash dev. And why is dash dev? It's because that autoload is only used on development environment, unlike the autoload one, which is for production environment. It's the same for require dash dev. It's only used for the dev environment, and the require it's only used for the production. I mean, it's used actually for production and dev environment, and the dev one is only for dev environment. So that's it. So now let's go to status code. So that's actually our class. So as you might know, or as you know already, our project is really small. There's just one class in the source folder, and one other file to unit test our class. So in the source code, so in the src folder, we have a class called status code, and it's important to have the same as the file name. So status code is a class name, but it's a good idea, a good practice, obviously, to have the same name for your file name, because PHP will actually, when you will call that class, it will automatically try to load the same name for the class, for the file name. So when you try to trigger that class, it will try to find the same name with the same caps for the file name, and if the file name is a bit different, it won't find your class. So just keep in mind to have the same the file name should be the same name as the class name. And the namespace is one of our projects, and actually, if you remember well, it's actually exactly the same name as where we mentioned to load our class, to load here. You see, just HTTP. And PH7 is like, for me, it's kind of my vendor name. I mean, it's the prefix I always use, is the first namespace I always use. Usually, yeah, like if you on a project like Symphony or Laravel, the first namespace will be Symphony or Laravel. It's just in what kind of project you are. That's it actually. And in the class, so we have our class is final, because in my case it's just constants, so that's why I decided to have it final. Final, it means that you can't actually extend that class. So if we look here on Google, final class PHP, oops, I think I have an issue with my internet. 1 second, I will just, I thought with a USB cable it would be fine to share my internet, but apparently I will try to hotspot my phone. 1 second, here it is. This should be okay. Let's try it again. Beautiful, now it looks to be working. Let's go to the official php.net website. And so here, you see our final keyword prevent child classes from overriding a method by prefixing the definition with final. So you can't actually rewrite another class. And so here they just give an example. So you see the base class is not final, but this one, oh, that's just with a method, sorry about that. You can also set indeed a method as final. So because that method, so function of my class is final, if I try here, I will extend in my child class, I will extend base class, and I will try to reuse, I will try to override more testing method, and I can't, because more testing method is final. So you can't actually overwrite that one. So final is actually used for that. And here the other example is with a class, final class example. So it's like what we have for our constants, for the class that contains all our constants on our project, you see. And here the person just try to extend the base class, and it doesn't work because it's final. And for constants, actually, it doesn't make sense to allow users to, other devs that will use our library to extend our class, because it's just constants. So they should just create a new class actually. Sometimes I'm sure some devs will say, oh, actually, it's not a good idea. You should leave it as a normal class, because maybe some devs want to in the library they will use your library, your class, and when they will call your class, before they will create another class, so they will make it my status, and they will do extends. But to me, they should just do my status with other constants, and if they need my constants, they shouldn't actually override the status code class for themselves. They should then just create a new class. That's just my opinion, but it's up to you. Or here I just see I should have underscore. It's better actually, because otherwise it's not really readable. And I will do the same in my test. Here I will just rename it. Beautiful. So yeah, so our class is just all the constants we need. So for a project, you can just let's have a new file. So in my case, for instance, I will just here create a new file like test.php, and when you include that project, imagine that project is already used, so you just do use ps7 and then the namespace. So as you can see here, the namespace was just http. Oops. And then the class, the name of the class, which is status code. And so I want, for instance, to send a 404 status code. So a 404 is when it's not found. So not found, PHP status code. It's when you just want to send a 404 because for some reason, you know, the page is not found. It's nice to use 404, but sometimes it's much more explicit to use a constant name. And this is even much more relevant when you when actually you use some that express. Imagine use express dot use express. No, sorry, express that's a TS library, but use Slim, which is similar. Slim PHP framework. Yeah, express.js, it's actually a Node framework, a bit similar to Slim. Sometimes I get confused, you know, when you switch to different languages. And here, if you want to send 404, and they actually hard code the number. Normally they do when they send it, let's say HTTP status. I mean, now Slim is really Slim, so I hope they have a function already for that. But for a lot of framework, you have a way to send HTTP requests, I mean HTTP code, but you have to use the hard-coded number. Oh, here I don't see Slim always. Oh no, that's not what we are looking for. Let's see here, but that might not be what we are looking for. Otherwise, I will just look at some different framework to see, oh yeah, that will status, you know, and they hard code the 404. So for you, it will be, you will use the library status code. Status code, and then colon, and then it will be the number. So colon not found. So for here we just do with normal PHP. Yeah, that's actually the way you can send a code. And let's use printf that way. I will use a single quote here, and I will just do status code and then not found. But you can do exactly the same for a lot of different libraries. If you don't know, printf actually is to replace, it's actually to replace an area in a string. So printf PHP, oh, it's actually, no, yes, printf, because printf, without the s, it will print, it will not return, but it will print the value actually. So here you see it's just you do percent and then the type. For us it will be a string, so it will be a s. D is for digit, so you know for us it's exactly at this for string, and then it replaces with the value we mentioned on the second parameter. So so for us it will be just this, and with a nice library it will be more readable. But this maybe doesn't really make sense when we do that way, but when we use framework, that I will also show you how Symphony works. Send for status code. I forgot again how you send a status code with Symphony. So probably, hopefully it's there. And let's see also for Laravel. And so it's really easy. You will just have to reuse just a constant. And Slim, normally, yeah, Slim send status. Maybe that one will be better, better research. Status. So they do that way. So you see, that way it's not really, doesn't mean much. At 400, what is it? 400. And so if you use the library, it will be just 400 bad request. So you just use status code, colon, bad request. That's it, as simple as that. And it's the same when you use Symphony, for instance. It will be where do they show it to you? An instance of, normally it should be in HTTP. Yeah, Symphony doesn't have the best documentation, but you know, that's okay. Send. Let's have a look now. This is just to give you an example actually how to use the library and why it's really good to have this kind of library. We send request. That's async request, which is different. And here, oh, it's maybe here actually. Let's hop up. Oh, actually, they have a constant here. They use HTTP awk. So they have already a kind of library. So Symfony also provides Symfony component HTTP Foundation response class, a PHP representation of an HTTP response message. So yeah, that's handy as well. So if you do actually HTTP not found, so yeah, in Symfony it's already embedded. It's already included in the framework, and it sounds like in Laravel as well, but a lot of devs don't really use those constants. Oh, that's in Symfony actually. But yeah, Laravel, they use also Symfony packages. So yeah, that's actually an example of what you can do with a library. And if you have, like in my case, I have project is PS7 CMS. So I will show you right now. And I use constants, but not for everything. So because I built this more or less in my framework, as you can see, I use actually teapot here. So for every 404, I use the teapot package library. It's a little bit heavier library than the one we just built together. So not found. Let's have a look, so that's in my framework. I designed to have set header by code, and here is just the code, and the code actually is from teapot, so from here. And when you go here, this is exactly what it does actually, and it just actually set headers. It's exactly what we did. What we just did, it used header, and then the header, what it sends. So it will reuse actually the header from the array. So if you look at what we are here, actually that will be the protocol, and get status code, it will get the status code from our constants, and all are here. So this is mostly how it works in my framework. The 4.18, by the way, is just a funny one. Is I'm a teapot, but this HTTP code doesn't really exist. But that's why actually the library I use in that framework, the name is teapot. It's for that reason. So if you look even on internet, it's funny, it's always interesting. Wikipedia, HTTP code. You will see HTTP code, I'm a teapot, current error, response code, and you get when the server refuses to brew coffee because it is permanently a teapot. It's a really, it's a funny one. I command coffee. Then he said the error first that's coffee pot control defined in app. You see, April Fool's joke in 1998 and 2014. So yeah, it's just a funny one. So but yeah, for 4.18 is not an official one actually. So yeah, just for the information actually. So at least you know something new today, maybe. So yeah, let's just close that one. So that's it actually for our project. And you see, just store all the constants, and then in the test, we just test all the HTTP codes by actually having a function which is a provider, and then with PHP unit, you can actually use data provider, and you can use this one. So that's a function. So the function will return an array, and actually it's a multi-dimensional arrays. So we have first the code, and then the code. Actually, that one is the code we expect, and that one is the code, the actual code we want. And so that array automatically PHP unit will send automatically to send this one to be 100, and then 101, 102, and so on. And the other one will be what the actual code we want. So if you do data provider, PHP unit, if you want to learn more about it, it's here. So let's see, data provider. So, you know, where it is, it's probably, obviously, if I don't search right, data provider, oh yeah, it's here. So the test method can accept attributary agreements. So, or actually, it's funny, let's go to a newer PHP unit, let's say 9.5 version, because here I see it's an old version, 9.5, it's a bit outdated. Version 3.7, yes. Yeah, let's go here. I think the documentation changed to another URL, and Google probably still prefers the previous doc. So if we look here, data provider, beautiful. So test methods can accept arbitrary arguments. These arguments are to be provided by one. So you know, you just provide them. I will see using the term. Normally they show you an example. Here it is. So that's actually the provider that returns an array. And here is just the different arguments that what we expect from the array. So yeah, that's how we create beautiful tests, because if we have a for each loop, it's not really clean. So you should do that way, because PHP unit allows you to do that, and PHP unit will actually do a loop under the scene. I mean, behind, under the hood, it will do that for you. And this is just our test. So yeah, that's just basic, and that's it actually. This is our project. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it, and let's see in a different course for another really interesting and fun project together.